What is next for Katy Perry? Asking what's next for an established pop star with years of experience is not the usual question, but it's one that many can't help but to wonder given her circumstances. Her album 143 is the worst received album of her career. At the time of this video on Metacritic, it is the lowest rated album of Perry's career, the 9th lowest rated album ever, and the lowest female album of all time on the website. The album pretty much received unanimous negative reception from both music audiences and critics. Rarely has an album and its rollout been disastrous to this magnitude. It easily calls upon thoughts of Jennifer Lopez's recent train wreck of an album and movie, This Is Me Now, where similar reception was leveraged against J.Lo for being stuck in a time loop and failing to recapture her glory days while desperately coming across as if she wants to. But even Jennifer Lopez's album wasn't as bad as Katy's. Sure, it's no great album, but there is a genuine earnestness on J.Lo's This Is Me Now. You can feel that she was in love while making that album, that she believes in her love. Even if it comes across as a bit performative, there is a heart there. Obviously, there are other areas where the album falls short, but once again, emotion is there. Emotion by itself is not something people really hyper-analyze when it comes to music, because it's intuitive to all of us as human beings. We know when a song is melancholic, we know when it's setting the mood to be happy. Similarly, I think you can typically tell in the way the artist performs the song, which is why when it's missing from music, it's so apparent and see-through, which is one of the factors that led to Katy's disastrous era. She sounds phoned in, the beats sound awful, dated, uninspired, every negative adjective that I can think of. Even if Katy chose to lead with the most basic, most brain-dead lyrics, the least she could have done is make sure the production was brilliant, but it literally delivers on zero aspect. Not the production, not the writing, not the vocal performances, not the hooks, it's nothing. Like the album is literally nothing. When me and other people say it feels AI generated and completely soulless, it's not an exaggeration, and I actually do think the panning this album got is well deserved, because I really do feel it's that bad. It's not just generic, it's so devoid of personality in general that it is bad. I almost felt bad for Katy Perry because she's had 3 consecutive badly received records, and she just can't seem to get it right, even when she has the pathway laid out for her. But the reality is, Katy Perry as an artist is not a victim of the public, she's not a victim of these reviews, she is a victim of herself. She had the stage set for her. All the controversy was self-inflicted, and stemmed from her lack of ability to read the room. I'm a staunch believer in you put the music out for public consumption, people can receive it, hate it, love it, however they choose to. The most interesting thing is there's not an outside narrative existing for Katy. There's no creative infighting, there's no celebrity scandal, there's no big messy love story. The controversy she faces exists purely because of her art and the choices she makes with it, which I'd say is rare in career low instances like this. She doesn't necessarily have an outside narrative to fight against. The narrative is herself and her art. And to me, it honestly feels like Katy, 1, either lost her pulse on pop culture, or 2, thinks her audience is stupid. Because to me, I genuinely think that album was an insult to pop music fans' intelligence. Like, do you think that the way to restore your interest is giving us something that is just so completely empty? This album definitely felt like an attempt to capture the TikTok generation, but I feel like if Katy was actually in touch with pop culture, like many of her peers are, she would have known that the music that was served was not the way to it. I genuinely did not think that it could get worse than Witness or Smile. Witness was a simmering album. Like, it wasn't as hot as her past work, the rollout to the album was also disastrous, and it's definitely an uneven album, but it's undeniably Katy Perry, and still has some listenable songs. On the other hand, Smile was outright boring, but it had some real highlights and definitely felt natural to Katy Perry. 143 is like if you get the rollout of Witness and the blandness of Smile's music to the umpteenth degree. And what makes it even worse is that in this era where we are seeing some of the people that prime Katy inspired pop off and doing playful pop extremely well, it makes her comparatively feel very out of touch. And take into account that we're also in an era where so many of her peers and artists of her time have received a resurgence or career renaissance. Whether that be Gaga, Taylor, Beyonce, or Rihanna, they've all had these big critical or commercial moments over the past few years. And it's like, why is Katy the only one that can't get it right? Even Madonna, who is 66 years old at the time of this video, knows what a good or decent modern pop song is supposed to sound like, even if it's radio pop. And if we're being completely honest, Katy should have had her big detour moment by now. I'm not sure why she insists on trend chasing in the most overt ways, because it hasn't been paying off. Where's Katy's folklore? Where's her anti? Where's her lemonade? Where is her plastic hearts? Where's her ray of light? Something that just genuinely shifts Katy Perry as an artist. Honestly, I thought that Witness was her gateway into being a more creatively free artist, but it just feels like she just continues to characterize and cannibalize herself until there's nothing left, which results in 1 for 3. You know, even someone like Kesha, who was comparatively even more of a caricature in her prime, has gone on to take some real artistic risk and mature her work in the second leg of her career. Realistically, I think this album should have been scrapped after Woman's World. It's not uncommon for pop stars to release a single that isn't all that well received, or it doesn't yield the results that they want and be like, okay, I'm going back to the drawing board. For example, Ariana Grande did this with Focus, Camila Cabello did this with Crying in the Club, Rihanna did this with 4 or 5 Seconds and Bitch Better Have My Money. The overwhelmingly negative reception to Woman's World should have been an indicator maybe this is not the right direction to go. And the fact that this album had such a large and prolific team on every single song is insane. It's different when a lot of people have worked on an album and you can hear it in the quality, like on Beyonce's Renaissance. That is not the case for Katy. The fact that so many people greenlit this album, including the label, is insane. And she has a deluxe version of this album coming out, and I would say bad idea, take this album behind the barn and off it, as they say. But she probably has to recoup the money and losses from this era, so it makes sense. I'm not sure if Katy will retreat after this album and pull back from releasing music. I wouldn't say it's a bad idea, but I would hate for Katy Perry to leave on this note. Personally, I would like to see Katy Perry do something ballsy. I'd like to see her have her big detour moment, something that's new for her but good, interesting, and matures her as an artist. But I'm just not so sure at this point, given her last releases, that Katy has the foresight to make such a move and make it good as well. And even if the big artistic jump where the pop star, takes a backseat to the art isn't her thing, just some genuine quality pop music would service her well. It's almost hard to believe that the woman that made songs like The One That Got Away, Teenage Dream, and Hot and Cold has regressed so extensively. It's very disappointing because it's like you were the underdog for a minute, you can't even prove that you were worthy of being the underdog. Like a woman who made songs that defined a decade can barely make a listenable song nowadays. It's honestly and truly pathetic. I'm not sure if Katy Perry can come back from this. She's had 3 strikes, and you all know the rule, 3 strikes and you're out. And I feel like this is a new precedent of regression for a pop star. 3 consecutively poorly received albums back to back. And what's crazy is the last one happens to be her worst offense yet. 1 for 3 makes Smile and Witness sound like masterpieces. I will say that I don't think coming back as a massive pop star should be Katy's goal if she intends on releasing another record. You cannot force your glory days, especially while making music totally inferior to your glory days. The quality, the production, the heart should be the focus if she decides to release another record. And what will be will be.